All right. For the audience that doesn't know you, feel free to introduce yourself.
I'm Marc Lobliner, Chief Marketing Officer at TigerFitness.com. I own a company called MTS Nutrition, also a partner in Ambrosia Collective, and have a youth performance facility in Franklin, Tennessee called Legacy at Carbon. We're trained youth athletes.
So talk to me a little bit more about bodybuilding and your career as a bodybuilder.
So bodybuilding for me is just a way. I love training. I love living that lifestyle, and I'm decently good at it. And I took 7 years off. I got my NABA Pro card when I was 33 years old, which is a small organization. I don't even think they still exist anymore. Took 7 years off to box. So I boxed competitively for 7 years. And then when I was 41, I decided to come back to bodybuilding. And I came back in August, and I ended up getting my pro card that December. So bodybuilding is not a career. It's a hobby. I mean, it can be a career for some. I'm just not good enough. So I actually have a real job, and I have a few real jobs. And bodybuilding for me is just a hobby, a way for me to do something I like to do, something competitive that, keeps me striving in the weight room and in life. And it allows me to set goals and reach them, set new goals and reach those. So bodybuilding for me is more conditioning my mind to do better in other things in life.
So talk to me about, because you're also the marketing officer for Tiger Fitness. And, with that being said, like, you do a lot in the fitness world, right? And as a bodybuilder, with that being said, how has bodybuilding kind of changed your view on health, right? And if at all?
Well, competitive bodybuilding is not healthy by any means. Getting down to that body fat, whether you're on steroids or you're not, it's just not healthy to get that lean. Bodybuilding is an extreme sport. Like skateboarding is fine. It's healthy. It's exercise. But being in the X Games and going downhill at 90 miles an hour, probably not the safest thing to do. So bodybuilding for me, if you look at it in general sense, like people lifting weights, it's going to make them healthier. It's going to make them, it's actually going to make you smarter. So weight training has been shown to activate neurons in the brain, and it's going to also help people avoid being obese. And obesity is the number one comorbidity in the world for other diseases. So when you look at bodybuilding as a sport, not healthy. When you look at bodybuilding as a lifestyle or as an activity, lifting weights, strength training, extremely healthy.
How does it change your self-esteem, if at all, or your body image?
I mean, I feel pretty good about myself at 44 years old, being in shape and having, larger than normal muscles. But self-esteem, I mean, being in shape, being fit, taking care of yourself, it's just like if your body isn't operating efficiently, if your internal organs aren't operating efficiently, if your body's not being treated correctly, what does that say about your mind, your mindset? So healthy body, healthy mind, healthy body, they all go hand in hand. So one cannot be serious about their mental health if you're not also serious about your physical health. And appearance is a byproduct of living a healthy, active lifestyle.
What's like some of your best, if you had to say like any advice for like young men or young people, especially those who want to work out, what would your advice be?
How young? Are we talking about high school? Are we talking about college? Are we talking about 30? When you're in your 40s, young is a very broad term.
Let's talk about my age, like 17.
Well, my advice to you would be play a sport. I would suggest playing a combat, participating in a combat sport and also participating in a team sport. So for my kids, they all started out playing soccer, and that developed that teamwork skills, leadership skills, ability to accept direction and learn skills, and also a combat sport. They all started out boxing, and nothing will teach you the fight or flight response or handling adversity like someone punching you in the face. Now my kids now, one of them plays football and wrestles. One of them just dedicating himself to wrestling. He's your age. And the other one is she finished playing soccer and now going to Kelly School of Business, which is a very good school, because soccer and the sports she participated in gave her that winning mindset that allows her to achieve things outside of sport and life. So what I would say is it's a long-term journey. When you get involved in any kind of activity, whether you just want to lift to be in shape, and it's okay if you don't play a sport, that's fine. I recommend sports for young people. It's what I do. I coach athletes, right? We got a team going to semifinals tomorrow night, Page High School. And so, I'm used to coaching kids your age or, 18 years old as the seniors are. And, they use sports as I'd say a vessel or something to help them get to that next level, help them accomplish their goals, help them to maybe get into school, maybe get a little money to go to college. Now with NIL, who knows how much money they're going to be making. So you got that. But if you just want to lift and be healthy, I would say it's a long-term project, right? That means don't succumb to things like there's people on selling these SARMs and all these things. At 17, 18, 19 years old, you don't want to mess with your natural hormonal production. I would argue you probably don't want to mess with it later in life either. So I would say look at it as long-term goal, savor the small gains. If you gain a pound of muscle in a month, that's great. If you gain a pound in 2 months, that's great. But it's a journey. You want to set short-term goals, reach them, but your long-term goal will be to consistently do it. Again, I've been training for over 30 years now, and the reason I'm still going is because I enjoyed it. So make sure you love the process, love it along the way, and just keep it consistent. Do something you love doing. If you don't like doing it, find something you like doing.
With that being said, when we're talking about steroids and SARMs and the S words, right? When it comes to
yeah.
Where do you kind of fall on that? Because you seem like you just said, you probably don't want to mess with it. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm very against people. Well, not against, like if it's your body, you can do whatever you want, but I'm against in the sense of I would never do it because I don't, as tempting as it might be and as easy as it might be, it's not good for you, right? Basically, that's my stance on it.
Well, I mean, people can do what they want to do. I don't think that young people should take them. If you want to have kids later, if you don't want to risk cardiovascular issues from abusing these things, and SARMs are even worse. Like we don't know what they do. You look at the studies on SARMs that are largely in rodents, they're taking like 3 milligrams, the equivalent of 3 milligrams, when these products people are buying have 50 milligrams. It is going to suppress you. It is going to cause, and also when you come off of it, you're going to lose your gains because your body's just going to go back to below normal because your body's going to be suppressed. So you're not going to be producing your own hormones and you're just going to be spinning your wheels. Also, the other effects of you have acne, you have potential fertility problems down the road. You have your body not coming back and your body's inability to produce its own hormones. There's a lot of issues. If someone's 18 years old, hey, your body, your choice, do what you want to do, right? That's my opinion on it. But the fact that we've almost glamorized young people abusing steroids, and there's no real, unless you have a medical condition, there's no real use for steroids when you're 18 years old other than abuse. So I would say that I stand on the side of, you're not going to. Also, another thing is I've never seen a person who starts using at that age continue it till they're my age, meaning that they're going to give up. Like they're not going to stay in that kind of shape. They're not going to continue because steroids don't teach you the goal setting, right? Steroids, like you get that big hit of gains and sooner or later that's going to top off. So they're like, well, this sucks. I'm not getting quick gains anymore. So I'm just going to quit. If you're a natural and you're just getting those slow gains, like a pound every month or two of muscle, and you're learning it, you're learning the ways to train optimally. Another thing is when you take shortcuts like steroids, I'm going to call it a shortcut. You don't learn how to truly train and diet correctly because you have that enhancer that's going to make your results better. So you never truly can optimize using steroids because you never truly learned how to train and diet properly.
Agreed. You're preaching to the choir. I mean, there's plenty of people that you see on the internet, especially nowadays, talking about how, because originally what's crazy is that originally steroids used to be like this. Nobody talked about it. Like, you shouldn't talk about it. Like it was a secret. Now everybody who takes it is pretty much public about it. Right. Or not all the time. Sometimes you have fake natties, but it's a lot less taboo, I guess, which I think is an interesting shift.
Well, because you get paid for it, right? They get millions of followers on YouTube and they're getting that Google money and, they're doing their thing. They get sponsors. So there's a financial reward, but not everybody's going to do that. There's a lot of kids, I own a gym. I own a couple gyms and these kids come in and, they just start blasting gear and they're not going huge on social. They're just whatever. They're doing their thing. So again, you got to look at the long term. It's hard to look at long term when you're 20. It's hard to look at long-term when you're 18. When you get older, you're going to regret that because you're going to be like, you know what? I'm not jacked anymore. So I pretty much maybe potentially took years off my life to have acne and look slightly bigger at 17, 18 years old. You're going to look back and you're going to probably regret it. So again, most people who start steroids, in my experience, again, I don't have data on this. In my experience, they just don't stick with it. They just don't have that staying power of someone who just went in the gym and learned to love the process.
So talk to me about, when we're talking about goal setting, talk to me about advice you would give somebody who struggles to start, right? Like they just struggle to get into it, and they struggle to get into it, right? They struggle to get out of bed and go to the gym and get fit, like to begin with, right?
Uh-huh.
We're not even talking about the steroids where somebody's been working out for a while and they take. I'm talking like somebody who
Uh-huh.
just doesn't have the mindset to even get to go to the gym to begin with. And there's a lot of people out there like that. So talk to me about that person and what the best advice for that person is.
Well, I'm not a therapist, so my advice might not be correct. And therapists are wrong a lot too. Here's the deal. You know, do you want to look better? Yeah, everybody's going to say they want to look better. Do you want to have abs? Yeah, people are going to say that. Do you want to be healthy and live a long life? Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to say that. Stop being a pussy. Go to the gym. Like, I'm not going to sit here and give you a motivation. That's motivation enough, right? Like, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to perform better in my daily tasks. I'm going to be smarter. I'm going to be more efficient, and I'm going to look better. If that's not motivation enough to get out of bed 30 minutes earlier or to just get off your ass, stop playing video games and get to the gym, then you're just going to live a shitty life. I mean, if you're not motivated to do that, what's going to give you the motivation to work extra hours and make more money, move up in the organization, get paid? Like, you're just going to live a suboptimal, shitty life. And the motivation has to come from within. But if that's not enough motivation, there's not one motivational speech in the world. You get all your best Ray Lewis pregame linebacker speeches you can find. It's not going to get you to go. So the motivation has to come from within. And you have to understand that you're doing something not just for your short term, but for your long term, and not just physically, but also mentally.
So what about people that are, let's say, the Bill, I'm going to be very extreme and say like the Bill Gateses of the world, right? The very wealthy man that has never touched a weight in his life. I mean, we've seen the picture of Elon Musk in, shirtless, and he looks like he hasn't seen the sun in years, right? And you get people like that who don't work out, they don't go to the gym, but they're ultra successful,
Okay.
by societal standards. When you're talking about people that don't go to the gym, also living suboptimal lives, how can you then have like something like that just in your philosophy, like in that extreme?
Well, Jeff Bezos has all the money in the world. He went and got jacked. Mark Zuckerberg, all the money in the world. You can't buy being jacked. That takes work. Zuckerberg's in there friggin' grinding and friggin' doing MMA 5 times a week because you can't buy that. And yeah, there are people who are smart, but imagine how much better they'd be. Like, dude, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, doesn't look like he's in shape, right? He probably exercises, right? Like, but he's an extreme outlier. I'm talking about normal people like us who don't. Elon Musk is probably the smartest guy we've seen in our lifetimes. I mean, let's just be real. Whatever your political stance is, that dude's smart. Like, dude's flying rocket ships and having satellite internet and, making electric cars cool. Like that, he's just him. Like, some people just got it like that, but you and I don't. So we need to take every opportunity we can, every little opportunity to better ourselves. But again, you look at it like, okay, you talk about Gates and you talk about Musk. I'm going to talk about Bezos and Zuckerberg. Dudes had everything, but one thing they didn't have that they could have changed, but only through hard work and maybe some peptides here and there, is being jacked, being in shape. Talk about a glow up. Like, Zuckerberg's like kicking ass now. Dude's jacked. He got a new haircut, got a beard. Like, yeah, let's go.
I'm very happy for him. And I think it sets a very good example as well, because
it's jacked.
It's such a shame when you see people like, the infamous Donald Trump, who, he doesn't want to work out. Like, he said this in many interviews. He refuses to work out,
Well,
Right.
does he? Are we right about that? Are you correct? Dude,
I mean,
golf.
those are his words. Those are his words.
No, no, he doesn't. He doesn't train with weights, but I'm not saying you have to weight train. Like if you look at a brain scan before and after a walk, before the walk, it's gray. After the walk, it's lit up like a Christmas tree, right? Like Trump golfs. Dude's in shape. Like, have you ever golfed 18 rounds? Like, it's a lot of work. Even if you take a cart, like you're like, this is a long friggin' day. Like, dude moves around, he's active. Again, you're looking at an outlier. Like, and Trump's kind of always been that guy. Like, he's just a guy who's different. And dude, there were rap songs made about Donald Trump, more than I can count, before he suddenly became known as a racist guy. Like, right? He was literally in rap songs. Like, everybody wanted to be Donald Trump. Trump doesn't weight train. He doesn't purposely exercise, but the dude's like golfing for 2 to 3 hours a day. I think that's pretty in shape, you know? And we don't really know what Musk does. Like, yeah, he has a really funny looking body, but he's not obese by any means. He's not in great shape. He's not a bodybuilder, but the dude's not fat. Like, he's not obese. So, and then you look at like RFK. RFK's jacked, 70 years old, bench pressing shirtless in blue jeans at the beach. Like, we can go back and forth, but you know, at the end of the day, how can you improve yourself through an activity? And there's only one thing we know that starts generating new neurons as soon as you do, and that's exercise.
Well, now that we're getting on the conversation of funny outliers and interesting bodies, have you seen those Vice documentaries of, and not even just Vice, but it's mainly Vice. Those documentaries of people that eat like only pizza. Like they'll eat like only pizza every day for like 3 years. They'll eat only mac and cheese for they're like really crappy, like not high nutrient foods. And I think there was even a guy who did it with Snickers, where he ate the exact amount of calories like that in Snickers every single day for a while. And like on the outside, they look very skinny, but on the inside, like they're completely destroyed. Like,
Yeah.
How does that work? Like, let's take like the 20 pizzas a day, for example. Like, how would that actually affect your body?
Well, it depends what's on the pizza, but I'm guessing you're talking about good old-fashioned pepperoni. Look, here's the deal. So the number one thing, when you look at all diets across the spectrum, from ketogenic to carnivore to vegan, all of them in the studies show health parameters improve, right? Even Dr. Nick, what's the last name starts and then? He did the Oreo cookie thing where it lowered his LDL. So the main thing is not being obese is going to improve your health parameters. So simply losing weight, whether you do it through ketogenic diet, whether you do it through a mixed diet, a Mediterranean diet, whatever it is. So once you're not fat, that's when you start looking at the nitty gritty, right? Like, we want to have protein adequate to sustain muscle, and it's very anorectic. It helps prevent you from overeating. Less calories per gram than any other macronutrient. It used to be 4 for protein, 4 for carbs, 9 for fat. Now they're trying to revise that. I think it's coming out to like 3.2 or 3.3. So you can eat more protein, get more satiated, get less calories, and it has a different effect in your body. So it's really hard. Studies have shown you can't gain weight by overeating protein. You just can't. Like Dr. Joey Antonio did a great study on that. A couple great studies on that. So once you get down, let's say you're not fat. You figured it out. You're not fat, or you're just a healthy guy who's not fat. I have trouble gaining weight. Right? Like I have a great metabolism, but let's say you're not fat. Then you get down to, okay, so what can I do to improve my blood work? Well, we know that fiber has some good effects on the body, very healthy, right? People who eat more vegetables and fruits, they tend to live longer in large epidemiological studies. You look at the effects of fats in your body. You look at the success of Mediterranean diets with the monounsaturates. You look at the potential effects of omega-3s in fish oil. That's when you get down to the nitty-gritty of truly improving your health. So number one would be don't be fat. And number two would be optimize the food you eat. Avoid ultra processed, highly palatable foods. That's a great one. But generally speaking, if you're eating in the way to improve your health, you're avoiding the ultra processed foods, you're eating whole natural foods, you're getting adequate protein, you're getting healthy fats, you're getting your carbohydrate from mostly whole food sources, you're probably not going to be fat. So they work hand in hand. It's going to be very hard for the average person who isn't a scientist doing a study to get lean on ultra processed, highly palatable foods, because it's not going to be satiating. Your nutrient signaling is going to be way off. But if you simply improve the foods you intake, you'll likely lose weight as a side effect.
Talk to me more about the protein study. I was unaware that because my understanding is calories in, calories out, right? Like the
Protein's
basis.
unique, man. I'm gonna try and look it up. Yeah.
Because my understanding is just the typical Sam Sulek approach, which is, you can't, or the laws of thermodynamics, right? Which you can't break, which is, you take calories in, calories out, right? That's how
Yep.
weight loss and weight gain is functioning. So when you're talking about protein not equating to that, that's interesting.
Well, protein does have a great effect. Here, this is, yeah. So this is from Joey Antonio, Journal of International Society of Sport Nutrition, published in May of 2014. The effects of consuming a high protein diet: 4.4 grams per kilogram a day on body composition in resistance trained individuals. So here's the thing. Conclusion. I'm going to go straight to conclusion. I know that's frowned upon, but I'm not going to read an entire friggin' study. Consuming 5.5 times the recommended daily ounce of protein has no effect on body composition in resistance trained individuals who otherwise maintain the same training regimen. This is the first interventional study to demonstrate that consuming a hypercaloric, high protein diet does not result in an increase in body fat. So then a hypercaloric diet, the hypercaloric part comes from protein, and they're completely, this is a great study. 30 healthy resistance trained individuals participated. Random control group. You had a control group, high protein group. Control group was instructed to maintain the same training and dietary habits over the course of 8-week study. High protein group was instructed to consume 4.4 grams of protein per kilogram body weight daily. Same training, dietary habits. I mean, the studies are there. Yeah. So
Bless
the
you.
studies, no, thank you. The studies back up what we've been talking about, is that if you overfeed on protein, you're less likely to gain fat. It's nuts. And the thing is, when I asked Joey about this, I'm like, well, where does it go? He's like, I don't know. Like, we don't really know the mechanism of how it's acting, but we know that protein does react differently in the human body than a carbohydrate or a fat.
Well, talk to me about carbs, because that's my follow-up question, which is, the demon of nutrition, which is sugars and carbs. Well, carbs are a category of, wait, is it? I might be mixing the two up, but I believe that carbs are a category of sugars. Sugars is a very broad category. Carbs fall under that, correct?
I wouldn't say that. Carbs will convert to sugar, so you eat a carbohydrate. And at the end of the day, a carbohydrate is going to be broken down to a glucose molecule while it's digested. But you also have different types of carbs, like fructose, which has little effect, if any effect, on blood sugar found in honey and fruits. And so that's going to be different than a glucose molecule. You also have the fact that it acts differently in the body. And carbohydrate is found in a lot of very healthy foods. I don't think we're going to argue that fruits are unhealthy. I'm not going to have that argument, at least. Vegetables are unhealthy, right? So look at it this way. Carbohydrates are not essential. You can live without them, because your body will derive energy from ketones if you're eating a higher fat predominant diet, or your body can derive glucose via gluconeogenesis from protein. So your body does not need carbohydrates. There's two essential nutrients in the body that you can intake. That is essential fatty acids and essential amino acids. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. However, if you're looking at optimal performance, I can make the arguments, and a lot of data supports this, that carbohydrate, being that glucose is the preferred fuel source for the body, because if your body has fat, your body has protein, your body has carbohydrate, it's going straight for the glucose. Your brain operates mostly on glucose, but ketones are very efficient for brain health. But if your body has two forms, and I'll get into that, there are supplemental BHBs, which are fantastic, where you can supplement with BHBs, which are exogenous ketones that have the same bioidentical effect on the body. You can actually get both fuel sources now through supplementation, but that's besides the point. At the end of it, you don't need carbohydrate, but I will argue fiber is healthy and makes you live longer and have healthier bowel movements, obviously, but also the nutrients found in carbohydrate containing food like fruits, the phytonutrients, all that good stuff, they have beneficial impact on the health. So usually what I tell people to do is set your protein at a gram per pound of body weight, set fat at around 0.3 to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight, fill in the rest of your caloric needs with carbohydrate.
Talk to me about what's it called? Talk to me about the keto diet, right? Because everybody always talks about how good keto is, right? And the idea is that it's supposed to keep you in a state of constant ketosis, right? And you're supposed to eat within like an amount of carbs, right? And like a certain number. I think the number is like 20. No, not 20. Definitely lower than 20. It's like
It
a certain
depends on
amount.
the person. It
Right.
depends on the person. I could probably hit ketosis with my metabolism activity level at under 100, right? It depends on the person, the activity level. It's highly independent. Generally speaking, most people, it's around 20 grams. I don't think you're wrong about that. But also, I think you're missing a whole entire component is protein. If your protein's too high, your body's going to derive it's going to go, your body's going to do a couple things. Number one, it's going to go to carbohydrate for energy. If carbohydrate's not there, it's going to go to protein, where it's going to try to break that down via gluconeogenesis into glucose. If that's not available, it goes to fat. So a ketogenic diet in its true form is around 70 to 80% fat and 20% and about 20 to 30% protein, with zero or negligible carbohydrate, trace, whatever you want to call it. 20 grams would be around trace. So if you look at a real ketogenic diet, you're eating fat. Like, you're eating a lot of fat. And that's not fun, because even if you're basically eating ribeyes and the fattiest cuts of meat you can find. And then you're probably going to have to put butter on it or some other fat source to make sure that you get to that level. So keto diets are great, being that most people are not active. Most people don't burn much glucose. It keeps your insulin levels low, assuming your meals are smaller in size. Because if you eat a large meal, I don't care if it's ribeyes, I don't care, you're going to have an insulin spike, but insulin's not gray or white. Like, you can have some insulin. It doesn't mean you're going to go into shock. But when you constantly elevate insulin via ultra-processed, highly palatable foods, that's when you get into metabolic syndrome. That's when you get into issues and risks for type 2 diabetes. So again, insulin's not black and white. So I say the keto diet for probably 80 to 90% of the population is awesome, because they're not really burning glucose anyway. Americans are fat and lazy. So the keto diet would be great. Also, it takes away the ability to snack. Who wants to friggin' snack on a ribeye? You either eat it or you don't. Whereas carbohydrate foods are what people eat because they're tasty. Potato chips, candy. So you're eliminating, just by being on a keto diet, you're eliminating over 50% of your ability to mess up your diet. And if you look at where people get their calories, it's the snacking. So if you rid yourself of that snacking for the average person who's not looking to optimize their performance, then you'll be in a really good place.
Well, let's talk about you specifically, right, for a second. So when you did do bodybuilding, right, as a pro,
I still do.
yeah. So, well, let's talk about like the day in the life of that, right? Like from morning to night, like you get out of bed, what's your routine looking like? And especially, what's your diet? What's your training? Like, what is that especially looking like?
Well, it's the same as now. So I'll usually get up around 4:30, and I'll get my stuff done, like, brush my teeth, do all that. And then my kids, my kids are in school, I think we leave so at like 7:10. Take my 11-year-old to school. So I'll wake up and eat breakfast. Normally it's, I usually eat like 4 eggs and some toast, whatever. Like, I'm not anal retentive. And then, so I get work done. I'll usually work from like, let's say 4:30 to 4:45, 5 o'clock, get ready. I'll work between 5 and 7, do office work, catch up on emails, finish up whatever paperwork I had from the day before. Take my kid to school at 7:10 with my wife. We'll go to the gym, train, usually get home at around 9:30, shower, 10 o'clock, say a little bit earlier. Usually get home around like 9, shower, whatever, work in the office from like 9:30 till say about 4:30 or so, go coach a class. Cause I have that, I have my youth performance facility, coach for about an hour, come back, and then work until probably 8:30. And then that's it. Shower and get ready for bed. And in that process of that day, I'll have meals. I'll normally measure it out. Normally I like beef and rice or something of that nature. So it's not really fancy, and it's not any different from anybody else's life. I just happen to compete. I run businesses, so I don't really have time to sit there and optimize. I lift and then I'm done. Like, I don't think about bodybuilding the rest of the day. I'm thinking about how to pay my bills. That's about it. So I just live a normal life like anybody else who trains. I go to the gym in the morning and then I'm done. And I might go on a walk during the day if it's nice out, take my dogs on like a 20-minute walk. I try to take breaks every like hour to get some movement, maybe some stretching, just keep my brain moving. But at the end of the day, I'm usually on conference calls for 6 hours a day. So
Talk
it's
to me
not the
then.
typical bodybuilding, like bro
Yeah.
lifestyle. It's a little bit different.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, as a businessman as well as a bodybuilder, right? Because you have multiple ventures you're involved with. If that's the word, ventures, I guess. Yeah, ventures, businesses you're involved with. Um, what advice would you have regarding that? Right. Let's say somebody wants to get into business and they want to get into the fitness industry. All right. What advice do you have for somebody like that?
Do they want to start the business or work in the industry?
Let's say work for now.
It's like any other job, have the qualifications and outwork everybody. It's really not that hard to excel right now because most people are lazy and soft. So if you're just willing to go to work and actually provide benefit to any company, not in the fitness industry, any industry. Like, what are you doing in fitness? Are you in accounting? It's like any other business. Are you in accounting? Are you in fulfillment? Are you in shipment? Are you a buyer? Are you a salesperson? So whatever you're doing, just do it like any other job. Like, just friggin' excel, work your way up in the company, and look at obviously vertical growth within the company. And if you outgrow that company, what it can provide you, go find a job at a better company, and maybe in another industry. But at the end of the day, it's fitness industry is like any other industry. You have profit loss statements. You have to balance the books. You have to make sure your EBITDA is healthy. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. That's how you measure a company's success as you go to sell it. So I think that there's a lot of things involved in any business, but at the end of the day, you need to work. You need to be beneficial. You need to be profitable. You need to be a profit center for the company. And if you add value to a company, you're going to do well. But a lot of people think they should just make $100,000 a year just showing up, or even not showing up. Good luck getting people to show up now. So it's really not that hard to succeed in life now, because I think it's not like the young, I'm not going to be like, it's the young generation. No, it's everybody. Societally, people are just lazy and soft. Like, you have to work to be successful.
Do you have any advice for low energy people, right? People that just they just don't have the energy, or they tell themselves that they don't, whatever their excuse, but their main reason for not doing things is because they're tired. They're too low energy. They don't have the urge to do things.
Figure it out. Get in shape, exercise, get sunlight, eat healthy. Guarantee you do all those things, you're going to feel a lot better. I mean, low energy, what does that mean? Like, you're unhealthy, most likely you lack motivation. Maybe your parents were too good to you and you didn't have any fight or flight built in. You didn't have any adversity. Maybe you didn't play sports. You're not motivated. Like, if you're low energy, that's a problem. That's something you need to figure out how to fix. And I'm guessing if people are low energy, they're not going to listen to me anyway, because they'll come up with an excuse. Oh, I'm tired. No, just shut up. The world doesn't care that you're tired. Nobody cares. You're going up against people who are going to eat your lunch. They're going to take the jobs. They're going to take the girls. They're going to do everything. So you got to actually realize that the world's a competitive place. And that's why before I said people need to play sports. People need to understand that in life, like in sports, if you do not work hard enough, someone else will take your position. Someone else will win the game. And you need to create that adversity within people, because we live in a convenient society. So if someone's low energy, number one, figure out why you're low energy, and then gather up the energy to fix that problem. That's a them problem. That's not a me problem.
So now let's talk about caffeine. When we're talking about energy and nutrition, do you take caffeine? Do you drink coffee?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on caffeine as a whole? Because there's this whole joke now that I'm going to take the whole bottle of pre-workout. I'm going to put water. I'm sure you've seen those videos where somebody puts water in the whole thing of pre-workout. They put pre-workout in like an energy drink. Like, it's like a joke, like, but it's also not at the same time, with a gram of caffeine, 2 grams of caffeine a day. So tell me about that.
Well, I mean, caffeine has an effect on suppressing a hormone in the body that makes you tired, right? So it does that. But you also have to understand that caffeine is very dose dependent on the individual. Caffeine has a lot of health benefits, but if you take too much caffeine, it's going to have the opposite effect and make you more tired. So it's that delicate balance of what works for you, of what the proper dosing is. Obviously, always go for the minimal effective dose. So, I like to keep my caffeine intake for pre-workouts, whatever, around 250 milligrams. But, more is not always better. And there is an LD50 for caffeine, meaning you can get injured from taking it. So, I would keep that in perspective and, try to derive as much of your energy as possible from natural means, sunlight, being healthy, eating right. But, nothing's wrong with caffeine. It has great effects on many health markers. But again, you're talking about moderation. Like everything can be abused in an unhealthy way.
Well, talk to me about supplements in general now, right? Do supplements really work? And I'm not talking about the other S word. I'm talking about like just basic supplements like ashwagandha, as we spoke about caffeine, L-theanine, so on and so forth. Talk to me about like those supplements. Do they really work? What are they really for? People have mixed reactions to them. So tell me about those.
Just those two. That's a broad spectrum, right? So is there data on vitamin C and zinc having antiviral activity? Yeah, human data. Is there human data on creatine increasing cognitive function and promoting muscle gain and other benefits? Yes, there are. Is there data showing caffeine to have a performance enhancing effect in acute training? Yes, there is. So like with anything, supplements a broad term. So yeah, I mean, supplements do work. Do all supplements work the way some companies claim they do? No, but can taking supplements benefit your life? Absolutely.
So now let's move on to a different topic other than putting stuff in your body. Let's talk about fitness influencers and the industry, right?
Okay.
So when we're talking about steroids before and supplements as well, there's a lot of people that tend to misguide other people, I feel, when it comes to, how do I put this? The representation of things like steroids, right?
Okay.
And a lot of myths about like training and like, just sleep 3 hours a night and like, just work out 5 hours a day and like a lot of things like that. Where do you think that a lot of the sort of misguidance and, just deliberate, I don't know if lying is the right word, but not truthing, right? Not telling the truth to their audience, right? Where does that kind of come from other than money?
Well, do these people know they're lying? Maybe that's what they do. Maybe they think it works. Like, so the problem with saying words like misinformation is there are things that people say that might not be the truth now that could actually be the truth. We just don't know yet, right? Like we saw that during 2020. Like everybody thought that masks were going to stop an aerosolized airborne virus, which now we know it didn't. And there's studies to back it. So, but people like me were like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. And then next thing you know, we're banned from YouTube and Twitter and all this other stuff. So when you look at when people say stuff, that's the beauty of free speech, right? Is that people can say really dumb things. As long as you don't represent yourself as a doctor or health practitioner, that's fine. But we gotta really like, what's bad training advice, right? Like it used to be considered that, telling people to do one set to failure was bad. But a lot of people get great results from that. So who determines what's good and bad information? Now, I don't think that, like Togi, great guy, love him to death. He's a 22-year-old saying, I'm taking steroids. Here's what's happening. And he's giving his experience. Should we ban him for telling people his thoughts on it? And even as someone with kids who are younger, who might be influenced by that, I say no, but you need to promote having good discussion. Like, okay, so Togi has a video on steroids being great for 20-year-olds or whatever. Great, cool. Make your money, Togi. Love you to death. Great guy. Amazing guy. I love him. He's a good kid. But then you also have other people, like a lot of doctors out there. Maybe you got maybe Lane Norton or somebody going saying, hey, steroids aren't good for 20-year-olds. So then that person watching that is able to see two stances, two viewpoints, and decide what's best for them. So, as long as we're going to have this plethora of information coming via the internet, we have to allow these discussions. And as long as no one's giving medical advice, I think that, it's just opinion, and that's where people need to critical think. And that's where we need to teach people to critical think. And that comes down to having a society where we can openly discuss things and talk about the pros and the cons of it.
So now when we're talking about personal experiences with regards to bodybuilding and, various substances, what do you think the biggest change was once you started getting like really in shape, like in terms of bodybuilding? Like, was there like I know we spoke about self-esteem before, but like what's like a big lesson that you learned or a big change that psychologically happened, if there was any?
Man, I train more mental for mental than physical. I don't always do the most optimal training split. I might do something I know is not scientifically right because I enjoy it. What's kept me in the gym for 30 plus years is loving what I do, is loving training. So if let's say I'm like, hey, scientifically, a full body split done 3 days a week is awesome. It's best. You're hitting the muscles 3 times, you're in and out. But, maybe I'm like, what? Today I woke up, my body's a bit weird, my mind's not right. I'm going to go train arms because it makes me fucking happy. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to train arms, and I come out the gym and I get to the office in the morning and I'm like, dude, I feel great. Like I'm ready to crush life. Like my business partner, Sean Torbati, like he trains upward sometimes 7 days a week, and he knows that's not optimal, but this dude's running multi 8-figure plus companies. So for him to operate at that level in the office, every time, I go to HQ, I'll be there again in December, or first week of December. Every time we go there, we know that in the morning we wake up, go to the gym, and then we go to the office. It's pretty simple. There's no deviation from that plan because it's what we do. It's like, we don't even know what we're training that day. It's like, what do you got? This hurts. This hurts. I think I could do this. Oh, okay. Because we know that it's going to make us better. So I think that just getting to the gym and doing something active, once you get into that habit, it propels the rest of your day. So I'm a big morning trainer. Another thing about training in the morning is that you can't miss it. It's done. Like so much shit happens in the evening. Like, how many times I'm supposed to be coaching and, Bryce, who handles my coaching, who's our head coach over at Legacy, our director of training, I can't make it today. You're going to have to cover because I had a meeting pop up at 6 p.m. I have meetings pop up more often than they don't. So if I'm like, okay, I'd end up training at like midnight because shit happens. And then my son's in wrestling, so I have to go to wrestling meets. So if I go in the morning, and on days when I have like stuff in the morning, a morning meet, or I'm sorry, a morning meeting or something, I'll simply just get to the gym right when it opens at 5 a.m. So I'm done by 6 a.m. So it's not that big of a commitment. People think that, bodybuilders, you can't train much more than an hour a day. You just can't. Your body would fall apart because bodybuilders, if you notice the difference, you go to a gym, you see a guy who's me, who's, I'm by no means like the biggest open bodybuilder, but, I'm 220, pretty lean, The difference is most people are just doing their sets. I'm doing my set. The intensity that pro bodybuilders train at is just so far beyond what the regular lifter trains at. I would say that the main thing that separates a regular bodybuilder from a pro bodybuilder is the intensity that they train at. And of course, but you go to any LA Fitness, dude, and there's probably 50% of the dudes are on drugs. Like, I mean, they're on something, but they don't look like it because you watch them train, and they're just not working out to the level that, a lot of these like Keon and these guys who are in great shape and who look fantastic, they're just training so much harder. And that intensity does matter a lot. So when I go to the gym, I actually lift, and the other people are just kind of going through their workouts, but I'm there today. I was there with my 18-year-old daughter and we're just crushing it. And that's the difference.
What does that kind of headspace look like for you? Because for me, I'm somebody who, if I'm going through something like in terms of a workout that's really tough, I try to talk myself like, just another step, like just keep going, you got this. That's my headspace, right? I'm somebody who has that internal voice. But what does it look like for you?
I just see the weight and I go lift it. I mean, when I don't train with my daughter or my wife, I usually just listen to podcasts, listen to Rogan, Huberman, something like that. I stopped listening to music and I find that I can actually zone in and get even more intense with just this. It's weird because it's almost like you're activating more brain cells, yet you're still, I started it like a month ago. I started after I wanted to hear the JD Vance interview during the election with Rogan. And I didn't have time during the day. I'm like, well, during training, I don't check my shit. I'm just going to put it on. And I want to listen to the whole thing because I like JD Vance. And I'm like, cool. So I'm listening to it. And I was like, this is like my best workout ever. And then I just started finding different podcasts. And I've never been able to sit through an entire podcast. Like Rogan goes for like 3.5 hours. I'm not sitting through that. But, during training, that's like 3 workouts. And I gone through a Rogan podcast. So if it's a guest I really want to see, Huberman, some of his stuff's a little weird, but if it's a topic I really want to hear, I think he's brilliant and has some great guests on. Headspace for me is, if I'm getting a crazy lift, like the other day I did a 613-pound deadlift that I still regret because I'm still sore and it was 2 weeks ago. I will hype myself up. I'll like breathe. I don't even know what I'm thinking. I'm just like, I just get my breathing in. I'll get in there and my mind is just like, fucking go. I mean, I don't really do the whole convincing much because it's just another set. I got like 6 of these, 6 hard sets during this workout. So I'm just going to get in and this is all I got. And once I start, I'm going. So, I mean, I guess the whole just shut up and lift is kind of what I do. And when I'm training my wife or my daughter, we'll joke around between sets. We'll have conversation, but once it's time for the set, you just lock in, sit down, get your breathing in and go.
All right. I think that's a good place to end off. Any final words for the audience?
Well, so I'm guessing it's a younger audience, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I checked my numbers. It's like 18 to 34, but yeah.
Okay. I'm like 25 to 49. Okay. That's my demo. Look, here's the deal. Love what you do. Use weight training. So bodybuilding or weight training or exercise, like you don't have to be a bodybuilder. If you do not like lifting weights, find something you love doing. Resistance training has tremendous health benefits. So look into it. If you don't like weight training, might I suggest not liking it for 2 days a week for 30 minutes. Just get in there, do some resistance training, just due to the longevity benefits and the health benefits it has, but do something active every day, whether you walk your dog around the block for 20 minutes, whether you just park further away from the front door at Walmart, do something active, healthy eating. Look, man, you don't have to give up what you love. Like it's Thanksgiving. I don't know when this is going up, but it's Thanksgiving today. My daughter made, and my daughter's a health freak, but she made these like brownie things and these cookies. I'm not going to eat the entire tray, but I'm going to eat me some cookies, right? Yesterday I had a business lunch and I went to this place called Jack Brown's in Nashville. It's got these like famous burgers, like crazy burger. I'm like, and sweet potato fries. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have that. The dude's like, can you eat this? I'm like, yeah. So unless you're getting ready for a competition or something, which I doubt many of you are, very few people actually do that. I would highly suggest against it unless you love it and you have the genetics for it. Just enjoy your life. Just keep your, when you can make the right choices, make the right choices. You'll feel better. You'll look better. You perform better. And you'll just be in a great mind space. As you said, I love the word mind space. I'm going to start using that. I never use mind space. I always think like mindset. That's not good. Mind space is good. And just learn to love it because when you're old, like me, I turned 44 on November 22nd. When you get older, the one thing that's kept me going, and you'll notice, like you'll go to soccer games, you'll see guys my age, and they can't move. They're overweight. You don't want to be that guy. I can still play with my kids. I coach football actively, meaning that, when I'm coaching my kids, 12-year-old team, we're out there. I'm out there without pads, letting them hit me with pads, running with them. You want to be that guy or that girl because your life's just going to kick ass. Where these other guys are having trouble getting the energy and the motivation to get out of bed, you've already gotten friggin' an hour of training done, 40 minutes of emails, and you're ready to go crush the day. And then in the evening, you're going to go coach. So I know it's hard to think about that when you're younger, Trust me, you make those decisions now and you start your life in that way. When you're my age, you'll be very thankful that you did. And if you don't do it, you'll be very regretful that you did it.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording. We'll talk after the show. That was good. I'm glad to have you on. That was great.
Oh, no worries.
All right. In 3, 2,